everybody, to another episode of the TPT Podcast, the TPT Podcast, the TPT Podcast.
Yo, welcome in and welcome back to the TPT Chiefs Football Podcast. I'm your host for tonight's show, Zach Story. Jaden's not feeling well, so he's going to sit this one out. But, we got subs, so I'm going to take over. This show is previewing the Monday Night Football game against the Buccaneers that we have. And I'm going to just get right into it. In the show, we're going to talk about the preview for that game. And then we'll get into some other just vague NFL news. We'll get into the Ravens, the trade that they made, and we'll get into our Josh Uche trade. And so I'm excited to get into it. Starting off with just the injury report, what it looks like for both us and the Buccaneers. We only have one player that did not practice. That is not on IR. And that is Juju Smith-Schuster, who we did not expect to have back by now. It'll probably be maybe the Buffalo game, hopefully, but it is a soft tissue with it being a hamstring. So if they're extra cautious with it, we can manage without Juju for now. And so he is the only guy that did not practice in today's practice. And I'm recording this on Friday. I don't know whether it'll come out Friday or Saturday. But everyone else, at least limited practice. Najee Johnson was limited practice with his concussion that he suffered last week. Mike Dana hasn't played in a few weeks, but he is back practicing limited practice. And then Jared Wiley picked up an injury. He's on the injury report with a knee injury, and he was limited as well. And so I assume it's not too serious if he just got injured and he is already limited. As far as the Buccaneers, now they are a little more banged up. As we know, Chris Godwin, he got that horrible injury, which sucks because he's probably in my top 3 favorite non-Chiefs. He's a great receiver all around. Slot guy, run after the catch, great route runner and great hands. He's just a great receiver. He's probably top 10 at this point. And he's been sustained good play since 2018, so he's really one of those guys. But also, Mike Evans with the hamstring injury did not practice, and he's not going to be playing. So we're going to be going against guys like Jaleel McMillan and Sterling Shepard is a guy. But he didn't practice with a hamstring injury as well, so we'll see what that team is looking like. It could be real rough for them on offense, especially going against this defense. I think one of the things Spags is best at is taking advantage of teams when they're not fully healthy. You don't see random guys go off against us. You normally see tight ends go match up well against us always, and then number 2 receivers, but it's rarely random dudes, and it's rarely the best player on those offenses. And so I really expect, and we'll get into that later, obviously. But other than that, also Levante David, their star linebacker, future Hall of Famer, has not practiced this week, or at least the last 2 days. And Greg Gaines, their nose tackle, who's kind of a rotational guy, did not practice either. And so they're definitely more banged up than we are at this point, especially since we've had time to adjust for all the big losses we've had. And so that's, an advantage. Them not having Mike Evans and Godwin is huge because our corners are very thin, and so that kind of evens that out. And then on every other area of the defense versus their offense, we have the advantage. Our pass rush is stronger than their O-line, and our safeties, linebackers, better than their running backs and tight ends. And then obviously Spags versus, I forgot who their offense coordinator is because it was Canales, but Spags versus their tandem of Baker and their OC. Come on, y'all. Let's be serious. And so I'm really looking forward to a dominant defensive performance. As far as the offense against their defense, their quarterback probably won't be out there, Levante David, if he doesn't go, which is huge because he is the red dot guy. He is their Nick Bolton, but even better and even smarter. And so that will be huge. I'm really looking to see D-Hop have a huge day. I don't know if y'all saw the routes that he was running. There was a little Twitter clip I saw, probably 6 routes, because he didn't run many routes. He only had 14 snaps. But there was one when Mahomes threw it up to Worthy and it got batted down on that 3rd down deep in our own territory. Hopkins got 5 yards of separation on this guy. At least 5 yards. It was maybe 7 yards. It was crazy stuff. And if Mahomes had just looked his way, which he will do this week, that's going to be yards and catches. And DeAndre Hopkins' career drop rate is 1.2. That means we might throw to him an entire... I mean, we didn't get him for an entire season. We might complete every pass, or he might not drop a ball for the rest of the season for us. Like, that would be along with his average of 1.2%, because I don't know if he's getting 100 targets by the end of the year. Think about that. That is ridiculous. He's going to be so useful. He is similar to Kelsey in that the way is he just knows where to go because he is so experienced and he has so many yards. Him and Kelsey, I believe, are tied for the most receptions in the NFL of active players. Like, if you look at our receiver room, I know we wouldn't have traded for him if Hollywood and Rashee Rice were healthy, and Juju for that matter. But look at our receiver room and how many guys that have been, if elite or household names. You have DeAndre Hopkins, who is a top 3 receiver of the last decade. Okay, I'd say going back to 2014, guys like Antonio Brown are up there. Justin Jefferson's getting there. But he's undoubtedly Tyreek Hill. He's undoubtedly a top 3 receiver of the last decade. Travis Kelce is the greatest tight end of all time, and he's still doing his thing. It might not be force feeding him 12 targets, but he's still doing his thing. Hollywood Brown was a top 15 pick who has been a household name since he was in, maybe not household, but 80% of household names since he was in college, catching from Baker. Rashee Rice, who was a rising star, who probably would have had 1,500 plus yards this year had he stayed healthy. Rashee, I miss him. I miss him every day. Juju Smith-Schuster, who had a 1,500 yard year and is a Pro Bowler, who was huge in a Super Bowl win, and everyone knows him as TikTok Boy. He's a household name. And then Xavier Worthy, who is the all-time record holder in the 40-yard dash. I just named 6 pass catchers that almost every football fan knows. And if cards fall correctly and we're able to keep either Hopkins or Hollywood next year, and then we get Rashee Rice back at some point, depending on the suspension, and we have Worthy another year, man, oh my goodness, that room might be even better. But forget about that. This offense, this is a game where we can get right in the passing game. The Buccaneers are not a good passing offense at all. They've been super banged up in the secondary. I know Zion McCollum is a really good rising player, but they've lost a lot of the pieces that were part of that defense that, tortured us. They've lost Sean Murphy-Bunting. They've lost Carlton Davis. And so the secondary is way different than the last time we played them. Their pass rush is not even close to what it was at the time. They're still good against the run. Vita Vea still does his thing down there. And I really like Vita Vea as a player. He completely changes teams, game plans going into weeks. You go into Tampa Bay games thinking, if we're a power run team, that's not going to work this week. It's just not going to work. And so he changes things, but other than that, you have Joe Tryon, Shoyinka, you have Golston. It's not the same defense. And so I really want us to get right in the passing game because we might have to pass it a lot more because their offense, even last week without Godwin and Evans, they still put up points against the Falcons, and Baker still had 3 touchdown passes, over 300 yards. Like, this is just the type of offense they run. They have a really high-scoring offense. A lot of turnovers, though, which is beautiful for us because we also seem to do that. And so that might even it out a little bit. But getting Hopkins involved, Kelsey doesn't have to have the craziest game. We've seen that he still has stuff left in the tank, so he can kind of go back into hibernation and let Hopkins do the dirty work. I'm really okay with that until the playoffs, and then he takes Jerry Rice's records. And then it's like, oh my goodness, this guy's one of the greatest pass catchers ever. It's ridiculous, and oh my goodness, I can't wait for the playoffs. But as far as the game, that's about as deep as it gets because we're 7-0. We should win. We're going to be favored in every game the rest of the year, other than maybe the Buffalo game because it's in Buffalo. And we're going up against a banged-up team that has not performed well these last few weeks. They went from, I believe, 4-2 to 4-4. I believe they're 4-4 right now. And they just do not have momentum on their side. And we have all the momentum in the world because we keep winning without any of our best offensive weapons. And we're starting to get them back. We'll have Juju back in a few weeks. We traded for Hopkins. We'll get Pacheco back in a month or two. Hollywood Brown back week 17, hopefully. Oh my goodness, it's looking real nice, Chiefs fans. It's looking beautiful. I do want to get into later in the season real quick. I don't want to make this too long of an episode. It's only been 9 minutes. But really, I mean, the previews don't have as much stuff to talk about because nothing has happened yet. And so we'll have a lot more to talk about probably Tuesday night with Jaden. But I was looking at our schedule. I was like, okay, we have the Broncos twice. They have a good record, but it's the Broncos. Their quarterback's a rookie. Not much talent on that offense. I mean, they have some dynamic players. Mims is cool. I don't know how much they actually use him, but, he's dynamic. But we have the Broncos twice. We have the Raiders again in a couple weeks, which is beautiful. My fingers indicate easy games, or games that we should win, and if we do, we choke. If we don't, we choked. We have the Panthers. Might as well rest our starters against the Panthers. No cap. We have the Browns. They look better, but I'm not worried. We have the Chargers again. They're a decent team. They're in the playoff picture, but we're not scared of the Chargers. We were scared of the Chargers when they had Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, who tortured us. Mike Williams killed us every time. But now that the Chargers, where their best receiver's a rookie, McConkey's really good, but he's a rookie, and then a bunch of guys that haven't done anything. And so I'm not near as worried about the Chargers as I have been in past years, even if they're better than they have been in past years. If you know, as Chiefs fans. And other than that, we have... then we have the Steelers, the Bills, the Texans. I think I named every game. That schedule is ridiculously easy. The Texans, the way they look with Stephon Diggs out, so they're basically back to the same personnel they had last year, except you had Joe Mixon, but we're not worried about running backs. That's not a worry for us. And then their O-line is worse than it was last year. They actually held up pretty well last year, even though they were expected to be a bottom O-line. But this year it's not the case. And they lost their worst O-lineman yesterday, so it might be addition by subtraction. But they're getting thinner, and his backup is Kendrick Green, who I think used to play for the Steelers, and he's no good either. So they're not looking as dangerous as they were 3 weeks ago. And then the Steelers, they're a great team with a great defense. And they could be a loss, but at that point, I couldn't see us having more than 2, maybe 3 losses by then. And I would assume we have 1.5 losses by the time we play those teams the week of Christmas. I'd say Buffalo's 50-50. It's in Buffalo, and teams that you beat in the playoffs like to come out and beat you. The Niners couldn't do it, but last year the Eagles did it. It happens a lot. Buffalo does it to us, it seems like, every regular season. And other than that, maybe one fluke to one of the division rivals. Like, we could legitimately... This is all leading to the point that we could legitimately have the 1 seed locked up by week 13. That sounds unheard of. Because it's not just your division. We always have the division good by 10, week 10, 11. The 1 seed. If we beat Buffalo, we will have the 1 seed locked up in everything but the numbers. It could be possible, but we'd have to lose every game for the rest of the season. We could lock the 1 seed up by week 13. Think about it. We have right now 3.5 games up on the Ravens. 3.5 games. That means for them to pass us, they would have to win 4 in a row, and we would have to lose 4 in a row. Which we're not doing that because I outlined our schedule. Our schedule, which is easy, one of the easiest in the NFL. Then you have the Texans. They just picked up their 3rd loss yesterday. We still have to play them. But, the Texans, they do not look as threatening. They don't look like a team that could be within striking distance of us by the time we get to that game. So they're in a little better position than the Ravens because they don't need as many losses out of us. But they're also worse than the Ravens. And then there's Buffalo. Now they're in the best position. They have only 2 losses. We are only 2 games up on them. And they get to play us, so they can cut it to 1 in the next couple weeks. And then that would be kind of concerning. But then again, Buffalo has a tough schedule. They still have to play the Lions, I believe. That's a loss for Buffalo. They're not stopping Detroit on offense. They're not. They're going to run all over them. And I think they have to play the Niners too. I don't want to give you fake information, so I'm going to do my due diligence right now and look it up. They have the Dolphins. They're going to beat Miami because they always do. Then they have the Jaguars. They're going to beat... No, that was... I'm tripping. That was early in the season. They have the Miami. Then they have the Colts. They should win both of those games, but they could drop one. Then they have us. Then they have the Niners. That's going to be tough. McCaffrey will be back by then. Then they have the Rams. The Rams, their defense is holding up, and they got their weapons back. At least they should. Puka got hurt again today. Then they have the Lions. That's probably a loss. Let's be real. Then the last 3 games, they have the Patriots twice and the Jets. The Jets could give them trouble. The Jets' defense always plays well against Josh Allen, and now they have 2 top 8 receivers, I'd say. I'd say Gary Wilson's down there at 8. I still have Devontae as a top 3, probably for me behind Nico Collins and Justin Jefferson. He's probably worse than Jamar Chase, too. Yeah. And Tyreek Hill. He's probably number 5 now. I've changed my opinion. But that's all to say, if the Chiefs come out strong these next 4 weeks, we can lock up the 1 seed by week 13. And if we lock up the 1 seed by week 13, we can do intermittent bye weeks where we randomly rest players that do not need to be rested. I don't know if Reed will do that or if that's against his football religion. But if a guy got banged, if Travis Kelce is looking sluggish, it's like, oh, he needs a bye week. Here, have a bye week, Travis. Here, have a bye week, Pacheco, since you're recovering. Here, Kingsley, you get reps over Wanye. No, that would be stupid. That would be dumb. Forget I said that. But we could seriously do that where we are able to come into the playoffs as healthy as possible. While still winning games if we would like, but I mean, I don't know how the NFL would feel if we just sat all of our starters for like a week 16 game. That might be kind of crazy. But I know that they don't want to have too much rest in between their final regular season game and their first playoff game. Because if one of the wildcard teams is like Baltimore, if they don't win their division, and then they get matched up with us, and they played last week and we haven't played in a month, that's not the greatest scenario for us. And so it really depends on how Reed chooses to do it. I wasn't alive when the Patriots went 16-0, but I assume they went 16-0 because they did not take that method. If they had it locked up, they probably could have rested players, but they chose not to, and they chose to go undefeated. But then they lost, and that's what we're not going to do because we're going to three-peat. Now, real quick, I want to get into the Deontay Johnson news. The Ravens added another wide receiver. Deontay Johnson, he's on the same level as Zay Flowers. They're both really good receivers. And their receiving core looks great now. Bateman's coming along, unlike in past years. He's actually very productive this year. They still have, I think, Nelson Aguilar is that 4th guy. And then they have a great tight end duo. And Mark Andrews is starting to produce. And so my allergies are kicking in. I hate when that happens mid-pod. I took a pill too. But their offense has weapons. It does. And Lamar is right now he's the best quarterback. I always say he's 3rd. I have Josh Allen ahead of him because I've seen what Josh Allen does in the playoffs and I've seen what Lamar Jackson does in the playoffs against the Chiefs. And it looks like Superman and versus Nightwing or someone. I don't know. Someone not as good. That's a lot of weapons, but you know the Ravens' offensive ceiling is really high against bad teams. Really high where they can mix up the run. They don't need to worry about getting behind. But then it really doesn't change that much against really good teams like us. I don't think Deontay Johnson makes them score more points against the Chiefs. I just don't. Because we know how to play against them. We know how to turn them one-dimensional. And the playoffs are going to be going against Mahomes, who's going to score a touchdown on the first drive. He's going to score a touchdown on the second drive. You're going to be in a hole. I mean, a lot of times we're in the hole, but against the Ravens, we seem to get ahead against them most of the time. And so I don't know. It's a good move because it was so cheap. The question is, does it move them into that next tier where they have an offense that can be relied upon as much as ours come playoff time? And I don't know if it does because Lamar is a great thrower. He's a great thrower now, but he is not the most precise, like crazy, just like surgical passer. He's not. His stats show it because they're playing bad teams and he's able to extend plays and do. But against the Chiefs, he's shown that it's not really the case. And so that move, great move. I wish we paid that type of draft capital for DeAndre Hopkins, but it's whatever. And then also we traded for Josh Uche, who 2022 he had 11.5 sacks. That's a lot. It's more than everyone on our team has ever had, other than Chris Jones, who has a career high of 15.5. He has great advanced numbers as far as, I guess, metrics as far as his athleticism. He's fast. He can play off the ball apparently as well. I'm very excited about this move because no one is going to produce on the Patriots line. Okay, not only do they probably get run on more than any team, at least based off like the fact that their offense is always losing, but other than Christian Barmore, I don't know any players on their line. I don't even know if he's playing. And so I would not be, surprised if that's one of the reasons for his lack of production recently. And honestly, our edges are weak. Karlaftis has played great the last couple weeks, but he wasn't before that. Dana's still hurt, and before he got on the injury report, he had done nothing. Omenahu's going to be coming back from an ACL injury. Anudike is a decent player now, but he is not getting pressure. And so Uche might be the second best pure pass rusher on our team already, and that might free up Jones. We might not have to put Jones on the edge every passing down. We might choose not to do that, mix it up sometimes, keep him on the inside, and have him wreak havoc from out there because we know Uche can have a quick win. That would take our defense to an even different level. Okay, and so really excited about that. I'm gonna end the show there. Obviously not much to talk about with the game since it hasn't happened yet. But I hope you enjoyed the show, TPT Chiefs Football Podcast. Catch us on Tuesday. We'll have the review for the Chiefs-Bucs game, and it'll hopefully be both me and Jaden. Peace out.